Basically, who can tell me what the main concept, or basically what drumming's sole purpose is? I'll get to you. What do you think it is?
Keep the beat.
Yes, as part of it. Can you expound upon that?
To have a nice, solid foundation for the band to play off of.
Yes, you definitely have taken that a step further. That's definitely two good reasons, behind drumming. Basically, it's the timing of, the whole band. Now, everybody always has that, mindset of everybody listens to the drummer. Well, in most cases, that's true. Everybody does want to listen to the drummer just to make sure that everybody's together. But the drummer also needs to be listening to the rest of the band. And I'll get to that later. Studio versus live. Everybody's going to be going into the studio to record one song. This might be one of the hardest things you've ever done. One thing, because of that, when you go in and you track, I'm pretty sure the way he's going to be doing it is going to be everybody plays all together to get the drum tracks. You'll get scratch guitar tracks, scratch bass tracks, or vocal tracks, or whatever it may be. But the main purpose of playing all together is to get that feel. Now, in the studio versus live, playing might seem a little different. Because in the studio, because it's being recorded, and it needs to be absolutely right on, and Tom Gordon will say the exact same thing when we go in the studio with him. I'm just going to basically pre-warn you, because he ripped me a new one last time I recorded with him, and made me the drummer that I am today. Because this is what I did when I went in the studio. Every fill that I was doing, I was just going all over the place, just like throwing as many notes as I possibly could, and it was cool and it was clean. But the problem is you do it once and you do it again, the next fill, and it starts to become boring. It's like, oh, I just did that. Basically keeping it more simpler instead of doing, it all depends on what the song calls for, and we'll get to that. Right. Unless you get that moment to shine, to do really, where the drums are featured, not necessarily a drum solo, but a spot in the song where maybe all the other instruments drop out and it's like a big fill for the drums. That would be a perfect spot to go off, because then attention's focused right on the drums, and then you do that big fill, and it's like, wow, that's way cool, instead of like, oh, we just did that 2 fills ago. So not playing a whole lot of notes in the studio is not a bad thing, because it makes for a better track, more solid, solid foundation, basically. And then fill-wise, I'm not saying keep it to 8ths or 16ths, but that's what Tom Gordon told me, because I was trying to throw 30-second notes and sextuplets everywhere, and he's just like, keep them all to 8ths or 16ths until that last time to just hit it hard right at the end, and just makes it that much bigger and cooler. And basically, practice habits is another thing that is very, 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 very important. I would recommend playing to a click, and if not to a click, and this is just for practice, I'm not saying play to a click live, because that's one of the most hindering things as a drummer, is to be stuck to a click track live, when usually the only person that hears that click is the drummer. So if you can get off, nobody will know, but you'll know in your head, and then it'll mess you up trying to get back onto it, or slow down or speed up to get back up to tempo. And that's the thing with playing to a click is very important, is your fills. Doing those big fills, time can go right out the window, because you're forcing so many notes in there, or whatnot. Even if you're not putting that many notes in there, if you're just doing an 8th note fill, most drummers, and I'm very guilty of this too, have a tendency to rush through those fills, and it's like, to get to that one, it's like racing to get to the one. You basically want to, when you're playing to a click, it's like you have to hold back. It almost feels like you have to slow down, but really it's you're holding the tempo back. Practicing daily is recommended, if you don't have a chance to practice every day. I understand, but practicing every day and not just, for 5 minutes, I would recommend at least an hour a day, if not more. I would practice as much as humanly possible. Practicing to get better is definitely, the whole purpose of practicing. And that concept of practice makes perfect. Forget it completely. Perfect practice makes perfect. Because if you practice something wrong a lot, it's going to be way hard to hinder yourself from doing that. And not necessarily technique-wise, because it's not marching band. It's not where you have to have mirror perfect technique on a snare line or whatnot. Your technique, as long as you're playing where it's not going to hurt you, because drumming can hurt you. If you're playing wrong, bad technique, carpal tunnel, tendonitis, no fun. Studio versus live. For live, you are performing and you are putting on a show, so you do want to get kind of bigger arm movements. And you can practice that too when you're practicing with the band. But when you're practicing by yourself, it's not necessary to be coming back from 12 o'clock to reach that cymbal or whatever. If you play comfortable, you're basically just trying to practice the drums, not killing it. But live and in the studio, there's also two different things. In the studio, you don't want to play too hard, but you don't want to play too soft, because of the drums, they react differently if you hit them quieter. So if you hit them really hard, those drums are going to resonate. The shell will resonate, and you get a fuller tone. Same snare, kick drum, cymbals too. You get different sounds out. Crash. Depending on your crash cymbal, if it's a thicker one, you're going to have to hit it way harder to get the actual sound that it's supposed to have. If you hit it really soft, it sounds like a clanging mess of metal. Bring in like a tambourine, mount a tambourine for drum set, which adds so much. It's amazing what an actual drum set tambourine can do for playing. Just throwing it in there, especially for funk and hip hop. And if you don't have it, I would get one. If you like playing that stuff, I would get a drum set tambourine. It's got a little rubber strip on it that you hit, so it doesn't have a clack sound from the drums that hit the plastic. You can even do like a ride pattern, and it just adds a whole different, almost electronic feel, because a lot of hip hop stuff has that jingly, tambourine pattern. Yeah, that's cool. So basically, what it all boils down to, as far as influence-wise, is taking some of the stuff that they've done and not copying it exactly, but putting your own twist on it. Not dynamic twist, not making it heavier, but actually taking it and taking the main concept of what they did and turning it around and making it your own.